I thought it would be the easiest job I ever had. Sit in a room, watch some cameras, follow a few strange rules. But one night, something changed on the screen, and my life hasn't felt normal since. I started this job 3 weeks ago. It's not glamorous or exciting, just night security at a warehouse out in the industrial edge of the city. A place where silence drips from the ceiling and forklifts sleep like extinct beasts. I took it because I needed the money. The ad said, $1, $200 per week. Quiet night shifts. Minimal interaction. Sounded perfect. The first interview was strange, though. The man who met me didn't say much. He didn't shake my hand. He just handed me a folder with printed instructions and said, "Follow the rules exactly, especially the one about Camera 9. That was the only part he emphasized, Camera 9. The instructions were oddly specific. Perform checks at 10 p.m., 1 a.m., and 4 a.m. Do not leave the control room between those hours unless there's a fire. Do not talk to anyone outside the warehouse, even if they know your name. Never, under any circumstances, view Camera 9. It seemed like a joke, or maybe some kind of loyalty test. But I signed anyway. Money's money. The warehouse is huge, like an aircraft hangar, filled with rows of anonymous crates stacked so high they disappear into darkness. My job is to sit in the control room and watch a wall of 20 screens showing feeds from every corner of the facility. Well, for 19 corners. Camera 9 is blacked out. Not glitched, not broken, just deliberately disabled. Static. Always. I asked about it on my first night. Texted the contact number I was given. They replied in under a minute. Do not ask again. So I didn't. At first, nothing happened. The job was as boring as I expected. Sometimes I'd spot a rat or hear the building creak like it was settling deeper into the earth. But otherwise, it was easy money. Until last night. At 2:17 a.m., every monitor flickered. I thought it was a power surge. But when they stabilized, Camera 9 was on. Just for a second. Just enough to show something. A figure. Very tall. Standing still in the middle of an aisle. No face. No movement. Then the screen cut back to static. I stared at it for minutes, thinking I imagined it. I even checked the recording logs, but nothing was saved. Camera 9 doesn't record. And then, the lights in the warehouse began to hum. Not flicker, hum. Like a deep, low drone vibrating through the floor. I stayed in the control room. I followed the rules. But tonight, I'm not sure I'll be able to. Tonight, I arrived at the warehouse 15 minutes early. I wasn't planning to. I just couldn't sleep. The image of that faceless figure from Camera 9 had rooted itself in my head like a splinter. I kept telling myself it was just a glitch, a hallucination brought on by isolation and stale air. But when I walked into the control room, something felt wrong. First, the temperature. It was colder than usual, like someone had left the freezer door open. My breath fogged up, but the HVAC system showed normal readings. Then I saw the console. A sticky note was sitting on my keyboard. Bright yellow. It wasn't there yesterday. One word was written in red ink. Soon. No signature. No handwriting I recognized. The building's been locked since my last shift. No other employees. I stood frozen, listening. There was no sound from the warehouse. No hum. No creak. Just the high-pitched whine of silence. I checked the cameras. All 20 feeds were showing static now. Even working ones. Camera 9 was indistinguishable from the others. I rebooted the system. When it came back on, 19 feeds were restored. Camera 9 remained offline. I stared at it, willing it to flicker again. Show me something. Anything. But nothing happened. At 1 a.m., during my routine check, I heard a loud bang echo from somewhere deep inside the warehouse. I broke protocol and stepped out of the control room. I know I wasn't supposed to. But that sound, it wasn't natural. It sounded like metal snapping, or a crate falling from a height. I walked cautiously along the main aisle. My flashlight barely pierced the thick shadows between the towering crates. The air felt heavy, humid, like the inside of a closed mouth. I reached the area near Camera 9's coverage zone. There was nothing. No broken crate. No signs of disturbance. But there was something else. A footprint. One. Large. Pressed deep into the dust. And not a boot print. It was bare. human-like, but longer, wider. I backed away, returned to the control room. The sticky note was gone, and a new message had replaced the static on camera 9. Don't turn around. I didn't. I froze, heart thudding like a war drum in my chest. I stared at the screen, at those glowing words, afraid to blink. Then the room grew colder. Not just chill, freezing. I could feel my skin tighten, fingertips go numb. The monitors began to dim, as if whatever power they ran on was being drained. Behind me, I heard a faint whisper. It wasn't words, more like breath moving through static. A hiss without a source. I clenched my jaw and reached for my phone. Tried to text the emergency number. No service. Not even the offline message I used to get. Just a black screen. I counted to 10, still refusing to turn around. At 11, the whisper stopped, and the lights came back. The message on camera 9 was gone. Everything looked normal again, except for one thing. There was now a second footprint, right next to the first. Identical in size. Equally deep. It hadn't followed me. It hadn't moved. But it had returned. And it was waiting. When I sat back down, I noticed something else, something that hadn't been there before. A third sticky note, stuck to the edge of my monitor, almost hidden by the shadow of the desk lamp. It read, "Watch the door." I slowly turned my eyes toward the steel-reinforced door leading into the control room. Locked as always. Except now there was a new sound. A tap, tap, tap. Gentle, rhythmic. Someone, or something, was knocking. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The cameras all stayed on. Even camera 9. But its feed had changed again. It was showing the control room. My control room. From a high corner angle that didn't match any visible camera I knew of. And on the screen, I saw myself. Sitting still. Frozen. Behind me, just out of frame, a tall, dark figure. Motionless. Watching. The feed blinked. Static. Then nothing. And the knocking stopped. I sat paralyzed in my chair for what felt like hours. Every creak of the warehouse made my heart jump. But the knocking didn't return. The cameras stayed stable. Then, at 4 a.m., I performed the final check. All feeds normal. Even camera 9, now once again blacked out. Just static. I left the warehouse as soon as my shift ended. The morning light felt fake, like a painted sky. But I was glad to see it. Still, something followed me home. Not physically. Not that I know of. But when I looked out my apartment window this afternoon, across the street, a sticky note was pressed against the inside of a bus stop shelter. Red ink. Familiar handwriting. We're not done. And when I turned on the TV, Channel 9 was static. Just like the feed. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. On the third night, I returned to the warehouse. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't clock in. I just walked in through the side door, used the access card they never deactivated. Inside, everything was still. Dustier. Quieter than usual. If that's even possible. I made my way back to the control room. All monitors were off. Except camera 9. It showed a live feed. Of a hidden staircase. I found it behind a false panel near the main storage aisle. A metal hatch, previously welded shut, now wide open. The stairs led underground. Cold air. Bare concrete. Fluorescent lights that flickered but never fully turned on. The hallway at the bottom stretched longer than the warehouse should allow. As I walked, screens lit up along the wall. Each showed moments from my life. Childhood birthdays. First kiss. My father's funeral. All filmed as if from a distance. As if someone had always been watching. And the last screen show now. Me, walking the corridor. But someone was behind me. I turned. Nothing. Then a new screen lit up. Join the feed. The hallway ended in a mirrored door. My reflection stared back at me. But it blinked when I didn't. Then it smiled. A sticky note appeared on the glass. Transmission begins. The lights went out. And now, if you ever tune to Channel 9, or look too long into the static, you might see a flicker of someone staring back. Someone in a chair. Frozen. Watching you. Because I never left.